Hey guys, sorry it's been a long minute. I wanted to bring some interesting information to my channel for anybody who's interested. I do know I tried to set up a conversation with John Felix so that we could discuss some of the informative information. Um, I know that he had a conversation with Michael Aline, the attorney dude, and while it was interesting, it was kind of weird because the attorney dude just kept on trying to miseducate everybody. And I understand he's an attorney himself, so I mean, why wouldn't he, fight for his own ability to be a somebody? Because as the title mentions, if you're not an attorney, you're nobody, right? That's what we're getting from all this shenanigans. So I pulled up this video and I wanted to share it with you guys. It's not too long, but it's very interesting. He has a couple, so we might go over one video today and maybe another one tomorrow or something. Trying to figure out the best way to present and bring this information to everybody, because this isn't something new. In fact, this is something that's been going on since they infiltrated and subverted America. I mean, it is what it is. So let's see if we can't. I'm going to shrink myself out of here so you guys can see the full screen. Let me see. Yeah, I got it. Right. Sorry. Entire screen. No. Do a tab. All right. Share. Hey, Prairie. Thanks for always being here. All right. So I'm going to start this. I may pause in between just to see or speak on things. Let's see. Okay. And I like this a little bit better because, unlike Michael Aline, he tried to explain the history to John, and he was kind of just pulling it out of his butthole. So that's something I don't like. I want to see, where are you getting this? Where can I, validate this? And of course, all that kind of stuff is very difficult nowadays, especially with this, technocracy happening. I watched a really good Corbett report the other day, and it was exactly talking about that. Like, you're not going to be able to read anything anymore. It's going to be what they say goes. What history is what they created in their chat GPT yesterday. All right, so us old people, not even old, us people who remember how to read, who remember how to research, who remember how to find sources, it is up to us to remind everyone else, this is how we validate. This is how we find truth. We don't go on to freaking X or YouTube or whatever, even though that is very beneficial. That's not where you find it. Okay, so I'm going to start this up, see how it goes.
Only the certificate from the state Supreme Court only authorized to practice law in the courts as a member of the state judicial branch of government.
Yeah.
Bar members can only represent wards of the court, infants, persons of unsound mind. See Corpus Juris Secundum, Volume 7, Section 4, and it's also talked about at length in the bar members video number 1. Certificate is not a license to practice law as an occupation or do business as a law firm. The state bar card is not a license. It is a union dues card. The bar is a professional association like the Actors Union, Painters Union, etc. No other association, even doctors, issue their own license. All are issued by the state. It is a non-governmental private association. The state bar is an unconstitutional monopoly. Attorneys have an illegal and are an illegal and criminal enterprise, violates Article 2, Section 1, Separation of Powers Clause in the U.S. Constitution. There is no power or authority for joining the legislative, judicial, executive branches within a state, as the bar is attempting. Bar members have invaded all branches of government and are attempting to control, dishort governments as agents of a foreign entity. The American Bar is an offshoot from the London Lawyers Guild and was established by people with invasive monopolistic goals in mind. In 1909, they incorporated this treasonous group in the state of Illinois and had the state legislature, which was under the control of lawyers, pass an unconstitutional law that only members of this powerful union of lawyers called the ABA could practice law and hold all key positions in law enforcement and the making of laws. At that time, Illinois became an outlaw state, and for all practical purposes, they seceded from the United States of America. The Bar Association then sent organizers to all other states and explained to lawyers how much more profitable and secure it would be for them as lawyers to join this union and be protected by its bylaws and canons. They issued to the lawyers in each state a charter from the Illinois organization. California joined in 1927, and a few reluctant states and their lawyers waited until the 1930s to join, when the Treasonous Act became de facto and the citizens became captives. Under this system, the lawyers could guarantee prejudged decisions for the privileged class against the lower class. This was all made possible by the American Bar Association to favor the right and have unlawfully substituted them in place of constitutional laws. The Constitution was written in plain English, and the statutes passed by Congress were also in plain English, with the intent of Congress how each law should be used and not the opinions of various judges as the codes list. Any normal person can read the Constitution and statutes and understand them without any trouble. The people of California were shocked to learn that the state government has no control or jurisdiction over the Bar Association or its members. The state does not accredit the law schools or hold bar examinations. They do not issue state licenses to lawyers. The Bar Association accredits all law schools, holds their private examinations, and selects the students they will accept in their organization and issues them so-called license, but keeps the fees for themselves. The bar is the only one that can punish or disbar a lawyer. They also select the lawyers they consider qualified for judgeships and various other offices in the state. Only the Bar Association or their designated committees can remove any of these lawyers from public office. The state legislature will not change this system, as they are also a designated committee of the bar. On August 21st, 1984, Rose Bird, Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court, and other of the Bar Association judicial committees stated in essence that the bar should determine the legality of all initiatives before they were allowed to go on the ballot. This is contrary to both state and federal constitutions, as well as the laws of this nation instituted by and for the people as a sovereign unity of independent states of we the people, and not a fraudulent corporate entity of lawyers. This is a tremendous amount of power for a private union that is incorporated and headquartered in Illinois to hold over the citizens of California or any other state. The only recourse is through this initiative process and vote by the people. After the founding fathers had formed a constitution outlining the laws as to the way our government was to be run, Thomas Jefferson said, in essence, this proves that plain people, if given the chance, can enact laws and run a government as well as or better than royalty in the blue blood of Europe. The American people must stop thinking that lawyers are better than they are and can do a better job than they can before the courts of America. Under the common law and the laws of America, nowhere is it expressly given to anyone to have the power or right to form a corporation. Corporations are given birth because of ignorance on the part of the American people and are operating under implied consent and power which they have usurped and otherwise stolen from the people. By right and law, they have no power, authority, or jurisdiction and must be put out of business by the good citizens of America in their fight for freedom. The U.S. Constitution guarantees to every state in this union a Republican form of government. Any other form of government is forbidden. No public officer or branch of government can be limited to a ruling class of any kind, or states become aristocracies and not republics. Also, the lawyers have made themselves first-class citizens where any public offices and branches of government are open to lawyers only. All other people are limited to only two branches of government, to only certain offices, and those two branches of government, making it all people who are non-lawyers into second-class subject citizens. When the courts belong to the people, as the United States Constitution requires, we the people will never rule against themselves. In these unconstitutional foreign tribunals, courts, which are hoodlum centers, men in black dresses that are unconstitutional robes of nobility, dispense a perverted ideology where the people are terrorized by members of the black robe cult. Which are lawyers and lawyer judges in the courtroom. The legislative branches of government does not have a constitutional power to issue court orders or any other kind of orders to the people, as a fiction court or a court corporation for profit and gain cannot reach parity with a lawful man. Only presidents and governors have constitutional power to grant pardons, but lawyer and lawyer judges are unconstitutionally granting pardons with immunity from prosecution. Citizens are not permitted to act like people in the courts. The citizen is told that he does not know how to fill out fancy lawyer forms, that he's not trained in the law, he does not know court rules and procedures. In fact, they make the rules and procedures way more complicated than they need to, because they intend to make it difficult to understand right off the bat. This unconstitutional lawyer system, only hearsay substitute lawyers not under oath have access to the fiction for profit and gain courts, even though only sworn testimony and evidence can be presented in court. Anything else is a bill of attainder, not permitted under the U.S. Constitution. U.S. Constitution does not give anyone the right to a lawyer or the counsel, or the right to counsel, or the right to any other hearsay substitute. The Sixth Amendment is very specific that the accused only has the right to assistance of counsel, and this assistance of counsel can be anyone the accused chooses without limitation. Lawyers and lawyer judges created unconstitutional lawyer system pre-trial motions and hearings to have eternal extortionistic litigations, which is barratry, and also in violation of the U.S. Constitutional and Article 1. In this places defendants in double jeopardy 100 times over. Defendants only have a right to a trial, not trials. When a criminal is freed on a technicality, is freed because of a fix and a payoff, as a defendant can only be freed if innocent by a jury, not by any technicality. Whenever a lawyer is involved in a case directly or indirectly as a litigant or assisting in counsel, all lawyer judges have to disqualify themselves, as there cannot be a constitutional trial, and also there would be a violation of the conflict of interest laws, along with the violation of separation of powers and checks and balances, because officers of the court are on both sides of the bench. These same lawyer judges are awarding or approving lawyer fees directly and indirectly, amounting to billions of dollars annually, all in violation of conflict of interest laws. As long as there are lawyers, there will never be any law, constitution, or justice. There will only be mob rule, ruled by a mob of lawyers. Case law is unconstitutional, as case law is enacted by judicial branch of government. When a lawyer judge instructs, directs, or gives orders to a jury, the lawyer judge is tampering with the jury. He also tampers with testimony when he orders the answers to be either yes or no. Lawyer judge also tampers, fixes, and rigs the trial when he orders anything stricken from the record, or when he rules certain evidence and the truth to be inadmissible. This makes the trial and transcript fixed and rigged, because the jury does not hear the real truth and all the facts. Juries are made into puppets by the lawyer and lawyer judges. All lawyers are automatically in the judicial branch of government, as they have an unconstitutional title of nobility, officer of the court. Citizens have to be elected or hired to be in any branch of government, but non-lawyer citizens are limited to only 2 or 3 of the 3 branches of government. Lawyers as first-class citizens can be hired or elected to any of the 3 branches of government. Lawyers are officers of the court in the judicial branch are unconstitutionally in 2 branches of government at the same time whenever they are hired or elected by the executive or legislative branches. This is a violation of the separation of powers, checks and balances, and conflict of interest laws. district attorneys and state attorneys have taken over the grand juries from the people, where the people are denied access to the grand juries when they attempt to present evidence of crimes committed in the courtrooms by the lawyers and lawyer judges. The U.S. Constitution, being the supreme fundamental law, is not and cannot be ambiguous as to be interpreted, or it would be a worthless piece of paper. We'd have millions of interpretations, which are unconstitutional amendments, instead of the few we have now. That is why all judges and public servants are sworn to support the Constitution, not interpret it. Under international orders, all lawyers, whether they left law school yesterday or 50 years ago, are exactly the same. All lawyers have to file the same motions and follow the same procedures in using the same unconstitutional lawyer system. In probate, the lawyers place themselves on everyone's will in a state. When there are minor children as heirs, the lawyer judges appoint a lawyer for each child, and at times the lawyer fees exceed the total amount of the estate. An outrageous amount of tax money is directly and indirectly stolen by lawyers, money that is budgeted to city, county, borough boards, school boards, and other local and federal agencies eventually finds its way into pockets of lawyers, as all of these agencies are tricked and forced into eternal extortionistic litigation. In the state of Alaska and Hawaii, the Bar Association has mandated that all judges are to be licensed to practice law. This license required is found not in any other state in the union, as all licenses to practice law in the state of Alaska and Hawaii are issued by a judge. What judge is qualified to issue a license to practice law to another judge? As only members of the bar may be licensed to practice law, Alaska and Hawaii judges are required to be members of the bar, and as such, they are prejudiced to do the business of the bar. If a judge is required to be a member of the bar, who disqualifies the judge from office if that judge does not pay dues or violates the rules of the bar? Texas statutes require judges to be bar members, and federal statutes require judges to be bar members. All state legislatures and Congress are controlled by bar members, either as members or indirectly as counsel to the members. Obama is a bar member.
Not anymore.
Inns of court. This is taken from Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. There are certain private unincorporated associations in the nature of collegiate houses located in London and invested with the exclusive privilege of calling men to the bar. There's an American Inns of Court Foundation. Every state has local Inns of Court chapters. This is their website. If you look there, it says that their main office is in Alexandria, Virginia. Nice, conveniently close to DC. Downtown London is walled in approximately 1 to 2 square miles. This is the city of London. This is where Inns of Court is located. Imperial Parliament buildings are located in the city of London. The city of London was never conquered by William the Conqueror. The city of London has several gates, one of which is called Temple Bar. The only true law schools in the world are in the city of London. And a true law school, a true law is 800 years of jury trial decisions, which is decisions by we the people. Inns of Court is one of those law schools. The city of London is foreign territory to the rest of England. During the convening of the Imperial Parliament, the Queen gives the throne speech. The Queen goes to Temple Bar and requests permission to enter the foreign territory. The Lord Mayor grants permission. The Queen then walks 2 steps behind the Lord Mayor with her head bowed while she's in the city of London. And it's interesting to note that the Lord Mayor leaves a hostage, so that they have to, because they technically don't have to give the Queen up. She's in foreign territory. They can hold her ransom. So they leave a hostage so that as ransom for the Queen when she's done. This is concessions to the of England to Pope 1213. Look it up. Do a search on the internet. It says we will establish a perpetual obligation, and concession will establish that the proper and special revenues of our aforesaid kingdoms for all the service and customs which we ought to render to them, saving in all things a penny of St. Peter, the Roman Church shall receive yearly 1,000 marks sterling. So they agreed to pay tribute to the Vatican. After the concessions of England to the Pope in 1213 was signed, King John had to make money to pay tribute. King John imposed martial law rule and started to do things to raise money to pay his tribute. It took only 2 years for the people to figure out what was happening, and the Magna Carta was the result. This is a Canadian court case, Perlman versus Pichet, found at 4 Dominion Law Reports, page 147. The Magna Carta is not a unilateral act emanating solely from the spontaneous will of the king. As the charters of the predecessors of John, neither is it a treaty, for we cannot say it was concluded between two legitimate and independent sovereignties, nor between two nations, nor is it a law. The barons do not appear in it as subjects, for they are freed from their promise of fidelity, and the king, brought captive, placed before them, submitted to the conditions which the conquerors imposed upon him. Magna Carta is therefore a contract, but resembles a treaty concluded between two nations, in that one of the parties, in virtue of the law of war, can impose its will upon the other. So essentially what they did is they took a sword, they stuck it to the king's throat, and they said, here, king, we want you to sign this, or we'll run you through right now. And so obviously he signed it. The crown is...
I wonder who it was who stuck their knife to the king's throat. It's the same people who are sticking their knives to every king's throat, every sovereign's throat today.
a corporation that is domiciled in the city of London. The crown is owned and operated by the Vatican. The crown that belongs to the Queen has ER superimposed over it, stands for Elizabeth Regina. All members of the bar are foreign agents of the crown. And the crown is owned and operated by the Vatican. This is a true Article 13 amendment to the Constitution for the United States of America. The underlined portion says that if any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor from any foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or either of them. And it's interesting to note that under them is the federal government, either of them is the state government. That's how they talked about it. Anyways, bar members is an office of trust. An office of trust is one that requires an oath of office. An office of profit is one that's paid. The War of 1812 was initiated by the Crown to eliminate the true Article 13 amendment. One of the major engagements was when the British burned the Capitol and the National Archives. The National Archives would have been where the ratification records would have been kept.
Yep.
All bar members have a title of nobility. All bar members have a special privilege or honor from a foreign power. All bar members have an emolument from a foreign power. This is taken from Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition. Title, persons, title, or distinctions by which a person is known. The Constitution of the United States forbids the tyrant by the United States or any state of any title of nobility. Titles are bestowed on courtesy on certain officers. The President of the United States sometimes receives the title of Excellency. Judges and members of Congress, that of Honorable. Members of the bar and justices of the peace are called Esquires. An emolument is the lawful gain or profit which arises from an office. Esquire is a title by courtesy to officers of almost every description, to members of the bar and others. In England is the title next to that above a gentleman and below a knight. In 1950, the 81st Congress investigated the Lawyers Guild to determine that a bar association by definition is founded and run by communists. Thus, by any elected official that is a member of the bar will only be loyal to the bar entity and never have allegiance to the people. All bar members have renounced their U.S. citizenship as contemplated by the Founding Fathers, pursuant to the true Article 13 amendment. And in fact, these bar members have criminally converted citizenship in America into the opposite of what the Founding Fathers intended. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Bar members represent you in court. They have no authority to. Bar members make legal determinations for you. If you hire an attorney, you're saying you're not competent. If you hire an attorney, you're making yourself a ward of the court. If you hire an attorney, you're saying you're an imbecile. The right to be represented exists.
Just real quick, I just want to bring this up. You're an imbecile if you hire an attorney. You're a ward of the court. But yet the attorneys will say you're a fool if you represent yourself. You wonder why.
This only in military courts. This is found at Title 10 United States Code, Section 838A1. The accused has the right to be represented in his defense before a general or special court-martial and investigation under Section 832 of this title as provided in this subsection. They cannot put you in jail unless you have an attorney representing you. When you hire an attorney, you volunteer to go to jail. Almost all judges are bar members. This is Title 28 United States Code, Section 631. No individual may be appointed or reappointed to serve as a magistrate judge under this chapter unless he's been at least 5 years a member in good standing at the bar. Canada Judges Act. No person is eligible to be appointed judge of a superior court in any province unless, in addition to other requirements prescribed by law, that person is a barrister or advocate at least 10 years standing at the bar of any province. A municipal court of record is presided over by one or more judges. The governing body shall appoint by its municipal judges. A municipal judge must be a resident of the state, a citizen of the United States, a DC citizen, a licensed attorney, and have 2 or more years of experience practicing law in this state. And in this state is basically federal areas of Texas. To qualify for an appointment as an associate judge in this chapter, a person must be a resident and be licensed to practice law in this state. Again, federal areas of Texas. Bar members have infiltrated our courts and are now found in every organization in the country at the highest levels of government. Obama's a bar member. The leader of a major corporation is either a bar member or they surround themselves with bar members. Bar members have criminally converted citizenship into the opposite of what the founding fathers intended. And this is Colgate versus Harvey, U.S. Supreme Court. And while the 14th Amendment does not create national citizenship, it has the effect of making that citizenship paramount and dominant instead of derivative and dependent upon state citizenship. So subsequent to the 14th Amendment, it was paramount and dominant, whereas previous it was derivative and dependent upon state citizenship. The United States versus Rhodes, it says the amendment reversed and annulled the original policy of the Constitution. It criminally converted it into the opposite of what it was intended. U.S. versus Anthony, the term resident and citizen of the United States as distinguished from citizen in one of the several states, in that the former, the U.S. citizen, is a special class of citizen created by Congress. Bar members have converted a U.S. citizen into a slave. The privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States do not necessarily include all the rights protected by the first 8 amendments of the federal Constitution against the powers of the federal government. In other words, U.S. citizens don't have access to the first 8 amendments of the Constitution.
Bill of Rights.
Against the powers of the federal government. The term citizen of the United States is analogous to the term subject in the common law. The only absolute and unqualified right of a U.S. citizen is to residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. Bar members on the Supreme Court are facilitating the murder of millions of our unborn children. This is Roe v. Wade, the celebrated case that's supposed to justify abortions. As used in the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, the word person does not include the unborn. Bar members have brought us martial law rule. See the We Are Under Martial Law Rule video. Bar members have brought us law enforcement officers to enforce their martial law rule upon us. See the peace officers and law enforcement officers video. Bar members have brought us the bankruptcy. See the bankrupt corporate so-called governments video. Bar members have brought us color of law. See the color of law video. Bar members have brought us Unidroit, kangaroo courts, Roman civil laws found in the kangaroo courts, the de facto courts video, and the quasi-contracts and Roman civil law video, and the Unidroit video. Bar members have brought us ecclesiastical courts that are owned and operated by the Satanic Vatican and are not interested in justice as described in the Vatican courts video. Bar members work together with the Bankster Thieves in the Vatican, as found in the Bankster Thieves video, the Bankster Thieves 2 video, and the Bankster Thieves 3 video, the Churchianity video, the Churchianity the Vatican video, the bankrupt corporate so-called governments video, the de facto courts video, and the corruption in the courts 3 and 4 videos. These de facto kangaroo United Nations courts make sure they get it convicted so they can make business for their bankster own and operate prisons. These de facto kangaroo United Nations so-called courts have a conviction rate that is over 97%. And if you do not plea bargain it, they throw the book at you because it makes more business for their bar member buddies in the so-called Court of Appeals. They want a plea bargain because that is not subject to appeal. Again, this is all coming from bar members. The crimes of bar members are too numerous to list. Bar members have converted our nation from a Christian nation that it was intended to be into a nation of hedonists and devil worshippers, as found in the Churchianity video. They've taken God out of our schools and our courts. The number one export of the United States is entertainment. When other people call the United States the great Satan, they are 100% correct. Bar members are priests of Baal operating on instructions from their Satanic Vatican. See the Churchianity video and the Churchianity the Vatican video. Also, all so-called court cases are actually satanic religious ceremonies run by priests of Baal. Is there any wonder why Christ had such a complete and utter contempt for the attorneys of his day? There's other videos that you might want to watch that will help you understand some of the stuff that's in these ones. The bankrupt corporate government so-called video, the bankster thieves videos, the we're under martial law rule video, the Christianity, the Vatican, bankster thieves 3. That one's already out there. Unidroit's already out there. United Nations citizens or District of Columbia citizens and our slave corporations, and the District of Columbia border pigs. And I'm kind of torn between calling that U.S. border pigs and D.C. border pigs. They're all really D.C. border pigs, but so I'll probably call it U.S. border pigs and then start off telling them that they're D.C. border pigs. But anyway, so if you want to know anything more about it, I have a private group called Administrating Your Public Servants at Yahoo and Google. I've uploaded a bunch of files. It's all free.
It's not anymore. This was a long time ago, so his stuff is highly hidden now. I had to find this. I can't even find the first one because it's hidden. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. This one's good, especially for the auditors because it talks about police. It's not too long.
To peace, he's operating in his official capacity. A law enforcement officer can be a peace officer. Many law enforcement officers also operate as a peace officer. But a peace officer, the minute he puts on his law enforcement officer hat to give out a speeding ticket, he just walked away from his oath of office and his all of his duties as a peace officer. Now he's operating in his private capacity. If they are administered by persons in their private capacity or not duly authorized, they are quorum non juris and void. Okay, so that's talking about those. But the point is that same thing applies with a peace officer. If he is in his private capacity, he is not operating in his official capacity, and when he becomes a law enforcement officer or does law enforcement activities, he is in his private capacity. When there's no breach of the peace officer is not acting in his official capacity, but is instead acting in his private capacity. An officer who acts in violation of the Constitution ceases to represent the government. Ignorance of the law does not excuse misconduct in anyone, least of all a sworn officer of the law. And when that peace officer decides he wants to enforce do that speeding ticket, they can certainly do speeding tickets on truck drivers and bus drivers, people that are involved in commerce. But if they try and do it on someone that's not involved in that, then he's personally liable. Color of office. They're operating under color of office, pretense of official right to do an act by one who has no such right. When the office does not confer on him any such authority. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's operating under color of office, and it's color of law, and it's a federal felony, and it's all sorts of things. And there's a YouTube profile by a guy by the name of Mark Passio, who's a former satanic priest. He's got some YouTube videos about natural law, and they're very good. The guy's brilliant. And one of the things he says is that all atrocities in history were committed by order takers. And an order taker is a peace officer, or actually a law enforcement officer, that is operating in his private capacity, that's too stupid to know about lawful commands and the fact that he's been given unlawful commands, and so he's just doing what he's told. He's an order taker. And these personal, and it's people like that are responsible for all the atrocities in history. Some of the pillars of Satanism, and you're going to find out that they're all over the place, that we're actually a satanic society. Judgment Day has got to be coming. It is coming. Anyways, pillars of Satanism is survival is the highest pillar of Satanism. Moral relativism, no such thing as right or wrong. We just make up what is right or wrong. Social Darwinism, certain classes of society think they are more fit to rule. Boy, that's the truth. All of these elites postulates the survival of the most socially ruthless. More pillars of Satanism. Eugenics, elite get to determine who lives or dies. Boy, that's the truth. Order followers, we were already talking about, responsible for all the atrocities in history, just follow orders without thinking about whether it's a lawful order or not. Willing slaves. Moral relativism. 2/3 of the people believe in moral relativism. Truth is relative. It's what we decided today. Tomorrow it might be something else. And these are all pillars of Satanism. And they've when we go through my presentation on corruption in the courts, 2, 3, and 4, we're gonna talk more about all of the Satanism that's going on nowadays. Some examples of order takers is World War II war crimes tribunals from the Nazis. All the Nazis claimed that they were just following orders. They thought that was going to get them off the hook, but it didn't. Most of them suffered death by hanging, and the ones that didn't spent the rest of their life in jail, and some of them are hunted to this day. And the Vietnam War, the My Lai massacre, where the U.S. Troops went in and killed off some village, and they were personally held responsible, and they were convicted of murder. And the Amistad. Any restraint, however slight, upon another's liberty to come and go as one pleases constitutes an arrest. These order takers seem to think that they can sit there and tell you that this is a detention. Well, it's not a detention. It's an arrest. And they think that they can get out of responsibility by calling it a detention. And they can't. And one day they're going to be held accountable. They might get away with it today, and they might get away with it tomorrow, but the judgment day is coming. Order takers. An illegal arrest is an assault and battery. The person so attempted to be restrained of his liberty has the same right to use force in defending himself as he would in repelling any other assault and battery. Each person has a right to resist an unlawful arrest. In such a case, the person attempting arrest stands in the position of a wrongdoer and may be resisted by the use of force, as in self-defense. And there's lots of examples of this kind of stuff going on.
I just wanted to pause real quick here and highlight the fact that even though many people know these laws, right, the cops don't take them seriously because you are a nobody if you're not an attorney. Shoot. Even if you are an attorney dealing with these people, you quickly will not be one if you don't follow the bar's code, because everybody has a right to resist unlawful arrest. And if you see somebody getting abused by the police, you also have the right to stop that. But as we have seen over and over and over and over again in all of our auditing videos, there's no way in HE double hockey sticks can anybody step forward when police terrorists are beating the shite out of somebody for no reason, for jaywalking, for whatever.
If the guy that stops you on the highway to give you a ticket for speeding, if you're not involved carrying passengers or property for hire, then he just breached the peace. One may come to the aid of.
I also wanted to just point out, I might be doing a video a little bit more in depth on this, but I find it very interesting how when I watch these, auditing videos, that all the time police officers will argue with an auditor about the law, right? And I find it so interesting how you also see all these attorneys everywhere being like, this isn't legal advice. This isn't legal advice. Isn't legal advice? What legal advice? There's no such thing as legal advice. And when a police officer is sitting there and telling you that's not the law, or this is the law, or this, that, or the other, is that not legal advice? Is the police not advising the person what the law is? And therefore they need to follow that law? I mean, it's just ridiculous. So are they peddling out legal advice? But at the same time, then you also think, and the video that I'm going to show maybe later on tonight or tomorrow, again, talks more about bar attorneys. And it's interesting how, shoot, I just lost the train of thought. It'll come back to me.
Of another being unlawfully arrested, just as he may where one is being assaulted, molested, raped, or kidnapped. Thus, it is not an offense to liberate one from the unlawful custody of an officer, even though he may have submitted to such custody without resistance. And so, again, order takers are sitting there just following orders because they're too stupid to figure out that whether it's a lawful command or not. Similarly, a person cannot be convicted of resisting a peace officer in the execution of his duty unless the officer was acting strictly within the limits of his power and duty. If the officer makes an unlawful arrest, then there's a common law right to resist that arrest. And that's.
Sorry, I remembered. It's that police officers can lie to you, right? Police officers are legally, supposedly, allowed to lie to you. Just like lawyers are supposedly, allegedly, legally allowed to lie to you. So what is legal advice? Just like Congress members in their official capacity, legally, allegedly, are allowed to lie. So what is this?
Found in the Police Manual of Arrest, Seizure, and Interrogation by Roger Salhaney. That's a Canadian judge. And so that applies in Canada as well as the U.S., any common law country. And there's most countries in the world are common law. Many police organizations deliberately screen out higher intelligence individuals during their testing process. And there's a good example of Jordan versus City of New London. City of New London is a city in Connecticut. Jordan was a guy that had a master's degree, and the City of New London refused to hire him because he scored too high on the test. And he sued him, and he took it to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. Look it up on the internet. I found it. And they basically said that it's not a good idea, but they have every right to go and do that kind of stuff. So your only remedy is really to sue them. And if you're in these UN de facto courts, your chances of getting justice are slim to none. There's lots of YouTube videos about police assaulting people and for jaywalking. The Obama administration is said to be requiring officials to sign a document saying that they'll follow orders to fire on Americans. And the wearing of clerical dress or religious habit on the part of layfolk is liable to the same penalty on the part of the state as misuse of a military uniform. That's found in the Article 10 of the Concordat of 1933. That's the Concordat that was signed between Hitler and the Vatican. And it's interesting to note that Canada and the United States and a whole bunch of other countries have signed on to that. And what that's essentially saying is that anybody with a military uniform is working for the Vatican. That's exactly what it's saying. And if you think about it, in the Old West, what military uniform did the sheriff have? He had a star, and that's it. And if you in the Old West, the judges would have a business suit, and the sheriff would have a star. That's at common law. That's the way it's done. You have all these people running around in these military uniforms. At common law, there's no military uniforms, and they just judges have a business suit. The judges don't have one of these monkey suits that you see, these black robes that these bail priests wear nowadays in the courts. That are they're just they're agents of the Vatican is what they are. And if you go through the presentation on corruption in the courts 3 and 4, that's what I cover. I talk about that stuff. So you might want to look at it when it comes out. It's going to come out pretty soon. Under Posse Comitatus, we have a duty to come to the aid of peace officers. The Posse Comitatus is the power or force of the county, the entire population of a county above the age of 15. What an awesome power! And I mean, what other power do you need if you have a true posse? And that's common law. And so we have a duty to come to their aid, and so we need to let them know that we intend to fulfill our duty. And if you see those old Western movies about when they round up the posse, well, that's what it's all about. And there's also court cases. A refusal on the part of an individual lawfully called upon to assist the officer in putting down a riot is indictable. And that's an old English court case. And again, we have a duty to come to the aid of peace officers. And so we need to accept our responsibility, and along with rights come responsibilities, and we need to honor that and let our peace officers know that, and they appreciate it. It's a lot of times it's the peace officers that are opposing these infringement on our rights because like the gun rights and all the rest of it, because they know that it's honest people that'll come to their aid if they have the ability to. Many peace officers understand their duty and are organizing to educate each other about their duty. Oath Keepers is a perfect example. You go on Facebook, they openly say that they will have no duty to obey an unlawful command and will not follow orders to seize guns. And there's YouTube videos and Facebook groups about it. There's also another American Citizens and Lawmen's Association that's based in Phoenix. And that was Jack McLam was involved in. He was a really good guy. He's passed away now. And there's Sheriff Richard Mack, another really good guy. And they're all peace officers. We need people to approach the peace officers in our location, let them know that we understand our duty to come to their aid, and let them know that we intend to fulfill that duty. Along with rights come responsibilities. So just because you have rights doesn't mean you don't have responsibilities. There's always responsibilities. And common law is in a way, it's a lot more severe than this commercial law that you see, with these judges and everything. Many so-called peace officers are in fact not keeping the peace, but are in fact breaching the peace with their unlawful arrest in support of their revenue-generating activities for their boss. The reason for the initial detention, speeding, and running a red light are not breaches of the peace. That's a perfect example, and that's a Texas court case. And so it's interesting that went to I think that looks like it went to the Court of Appeals, but yeah, don't get me going. But anyways, that's a Texas court case. The speed signs, this is Texas statute. Speed signs, the department shall erect and maintain the highways and roads of the state, appropriate signs that show maximum lawful speed for commercial vehicles, truck tractors, truck trailers, truck semi-trailers, and motor vehicles engaged in the business of transporting passengers for compensation for hire. So it's commercial. That's the only ones that applies to. And these hired thugs, these law enforcement officers, are going out and breaching the peace and assaulting you by giving out that speeding ticket. And we just cave right in. And so we need to stand up to it. And corporate names, this is taken from Arizona Administrative Code. Corporate names most consist of letters of the English alphabet, Arabic numerals, and or combination thereof. And letters of the English alphabet will be used in uppercase, capital letters only. No distinction as to typeface or font is recognized. In other words, it's a corporation, and that's the only thing they really have jurisdiction over. And that's the ones these LEOs, law enforcement officers, those are the ones that they're supposed to be stopping. But they go and stop anybody and everybody, and we need to train them. And it takes more than just me to be doing it. And this is Texas Administrative Code. It basically says the same thing. It's entity names may consist of letters of the Roman alphabet, Arabic numerals, and certain symbols capable of being reproduced on a standard English language typewriter or a combination thereof. Only uppercase or capital letters with no distinction as to typeface or font will be recognized. And again, that's corporations. And so they go and presume certain things, and their Vatican venture buddies help them out. And don't get me going. So we'll talk about that with some of the upcoming videos that I'm going to upload. This is Rule 52, alleging a corporation. An allegation that a corporation is incorporated shall be taken as true unless denied by the affidavit of the adverse party as agent or attorney, whether such corporation is a public or private corporation and however created. So they just presume you're one of their corporate slaves and put the burden on you to try to defend it. And it's just nothing but a kangaroo court. And don't get me going. And we're going to talk about corruption in the courts coming up. And so this is all the stuff that's going on, or some of it. This is found in United States Code, and the reason United States Code applies is because all of this stuff falls under UNIDROIT. The courts and the motor vehicles all fall under UNIDROIT, which is the UN. And Texas is not listed on the UNIDROIT statute, so anything that happens in Texas is really federal, and therefore United States Code applies. Section 31, the term motor vehicle means every description or carriage or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes, on the highways and the transportation of passengers or property. And that's what the definition says. At common law, the general rule, arrest could not be made without a warrant for an offense less than a felony except for a breach of the peace. At common law, an arrest could not be made of a person charged with a misdemeanor except on a warrant of a magistrate unless it involved a breach of the peace, in which case the offender might be arrested by any person present at its commission. In other words, that peace officer really has no more power than anybody, me or you. And anybody can arrest someone for the same thing that peace officer can arrest for. But that's why we need to, the peace officer is the guy that's out in front of everybody.
Again, how many videos have we watched where somebody has assaulted an auditor and the auditor wants to, arrest them, citizen's arrest, and the cop just sits there and is just like, no, don't worry about it. Oh, blow. They don't know the law, and they're putting it on you.
And we need to back them up and support them. It must not be forgotten that there can be no arrest without due process of law. An arrest without warrant has never been lawful except in those cases where the public security requires it, and this has only been recognized in felony and in breaches of the peace committed in the presence of the officer. So again, it must not be forgotten that there can be no arrest without due process of law. An arrest without warrant has never been lawful except in those cases where the public security requires it, and this has only been recognized in felony and in breaches of the peace committed in the presence of the officer. And again, that's the only time. In Alberta, Canada, they have peace officer written all over their uniforms and all of their law enforcement agencies, and that's actually deceptive because 99% of what they do has absolutely nothing to do with keeping the peace. I've been assaulted and kidnapped numerous times by these hired thugs, and the ones that I was forced to deal with are in fact pigs. I have never in my life breached the peace, but these pigs described herein have constantly assaulted me, kidnapped me, and falsely imprisoned me, and their judicial whore pigs aid and abet them. And there's going to be a upcoming private information share, I should say a video on this Canada Border Services Agency pigs. Anyways, the assaults, the kidnappings, the false imprisonment are not unique to Canada, but also happens extensively in America. And it is because the United Nations UNIDROIT Treaty, because it is always related to traveling in vehicles, which falls under UNIDROIT, or the de facto United Nations courts that fall under UNIDROIT. And we're going to talk about that in Corruptions in the Courts 3 and 4. And so those are upcoming videos that I'm going to put up. So I hope you're looking forward to them. And we're going to go through some of this stuff. Anyways, this is all related to this stuff. That's because of this UN treaties. Remember, the founding fathers say stay out of treaties. Anyways, PIG is an acronym. It stands for persons in government who intend to breach the trust and perjure their oaths. And that's exactly what it stands for. And there's a trust because remember, the courts have said that the Constitution creates a trust, and so these pigs intend to breach the trust and they intend to perjure their oaths. So that's 2 felonies that they're committing. Anyways, the U.S. Attorney General is the highest law enforcement officer in the United States. His hired thugs at the so-called border keep telling me that they do not recognize state citizens. The Texas State Police told me that I'm listed as sovereign in their system. Therefore, obviously, Texas does recognize state citizens and sovereigns. I did not ask to be called a sovereign. All I said was that I'm not a low-life scumbag U.S. citizen slave. It was Eric Holder and his predecessors that criminally converted citizenship in America into the opposite of what the Founding Fathers intended with their unconstitutional 14th so-called amendment. So I'm just having to deal with it. And the office of the Attorney General of the United States is an unconstitutional delegation of authority as described in Corruption in the Courts 3. Eric Holder has accused all people in America who are claiming to be sovereign of being terrorists. Eric Holder knows that he's the one who's the real terrorist with his false flag operations. And this is taken out of Funk and Wagnall's dictionary of 1946. It says terrorism is a system of government that seeks to rule by intimidation.
Terrorism is a system of government that seeks to rule by intimidation.
Which is exactly what they're doing. And I guess what that makes Eric Holder is he's the biggest pig of them all. And so, that's all I can say. It is my opinion that well over 90%, probably 99% or more of the people who work as peace officers are honest, hardworking people who are very patriotic and take their oaths of office very seriously. And many of them have not been properly trained, and many of them are under pressure to generate revenue. And the burden's on us to educate them. And the legitimate, lawful peace officers like Sheriff Richard Mack or Jack McLam there's thousands of them out there. They're honest, hardworking people, and I don't want any of this to be reflected upon them. A true peace officer is glad that there are people like me doing the things that I do because they know that their rights are disappearing too, and because of their position, they can't say anything, and so they are glad when people like me do this kind of stuff. And so that's a true peace officer. Upcoming events: we're going to have an upcoming event about the Canada border pigs, and we're going to have an upcoming event about courts. Honest, hardworking people, and I don't want any of this. Many of them are under pressure to generate revenue, and it is my opinion that well over 90%.
I just wanted to go back here because I think it's very interesting that it says terrorism is a system of government, because they're putting terrorism on individual people. In fact, I had a friend, my old roommate, he used to work for this dude. It's very interesting. I mean, I have so many stories, it's not even funny, but this dude is a Strauss. And if you know anything about the Strausses, you might understand, but this dude had tons of money, but he was a total douchebag. He was I can't even explain it. He was a literal douchebag. The first time I ever met him, actually, he had an insurance company, like a vehicle insurance. And I got my insurance through his little ghetto ass, tiny little insurance place or whatever. And then I thought it was very interesting because years later, or actually not even that many years later, maybe 2 or 3 years later, I was working I got a job at a food truck. And he was the owner of the food truck with his foreign wife, who he totally treated like shit. She was Thai. Yeah, because it was a Thai food truck and she was the cook. But anyhow, this guy, I met him there. He was also a cook, and whatever. These people were total, like I said, douchebags. So they weren't trying to pay people. So this one time they went on vacation to Thailand or something, and we were supposed to, keep the truck running. And he gave a credit card to Albert, the guy, my ex-roommate, to, buy product and stuff like that. And then he said that he would pay me when he came back, because there was no way for me to get paid until he came back. And so as a dumbass, I agreed and continued working, blah, 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 blah. And then when they came back, he tried not to pay me everything that I worked. And I was just like, nah, brah, you owe me this. And he was just like, no, we already paid you. Ning already told me she paid you. And I was like, well, y'all haven't. And you're going to pay me what you owe me. What the fuck? And he was just like, oh, how about you? And this is what I mean. And this wasn't the first time something like this happened, but I was speaking to him on the phone in his truck. And I was, telling him all this, and he was just like, why don't you just come by the office? We can work something out. Like a disgusting pervert dude that he is. And I was just like, what do you mean work something out, bro? You're going to fucking pay me what you owe me. And that's what's going to be worked out. I don't need to go to the freaking office for that because he was disgusting. He was a disgusting pervert. Like when I'd be working, he'd always bring these dudes to the truck just to like look at me or something. I don't know. It was fucking disgusting. And sometimes his wife would be there. Okay. And at the truck, I was the cashier and the person who took the orders and like did the appetizers and stuff like that. But when you come to the truck and you order food from us, you know, we let you know that your order's ready and you come back up to the truck and you get it. But whenever he would come with his friends, he would always make me serve them, like go out the truck and go to wherever they're sitting and serve them. And then he'd want to like talk to me and stuff like that. It was literally disgusting and so abhorrent, you know, because his wife's sitting there watching the whole thing go down. His foreign Thai wife. It was just so disgusting. But anyways, I ended up quitting that day. I was just like, whatever, biatch, I'm not going to fucking work for y'all anymore if you're not going to pay me. And so I left and I was upset, you know, and I was trying to tell Albert, you know, my roommate or whatever, that they didn't pay me. And they told Albert, oh, we paid her everything. We paid her everything. She's lying. So he basically took their side. He was just like, no, they say they paid you and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, they didn't, bro. So whatever. And then time goes or whatever, which this had happened before because before I even started working there was a guy who was already working there. And then by the time I started working, he no longer worked there. And when I asked Albert, like, where's that dude that was working here when I got hired? And he was like, oh, he quit. And he, like, I guess, messed up the truck, like, because he didn't get paid either. So because they weren't paying him either, he, like, did some destruction to the truck and, like, took all the money out of the cash register and left. And so that was that. And I was like, dang, that's crazy. You know, and that was the first red flag because it was, like, literally the first day I started. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, that sucks, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to I no longer work there, and Albert is still doing the truck or whatever. Well, they decide to go on another vacation. Like I said, this dude was like rich of all hell, but he always tried to like scam people. I don't know. It was freaking weird. But so they went on vacation again at some point, and they left the credit card with Albert to, you know, purchase things. And the whole time they were gone, they said that they would pay Albert when they came back. Well, when they came back, they didn't pay Albert. And so now he found himself in the same situation. And he was just like, oh, they're not paying me. They're not paying me. And I was just like, oh, so now you believe me? Now you believe me once it happens to you? Just like Back to Blue until it happens to you, right? And so anyways, it happened to him and he was absolutely furious. And so unlike my situation, they did pay me for some of my work, not all of it, but some of it. Well, this instance, when they came back, they didn't pay him for nothing. Like 2 weeks he worked and they weren't trying to pay him for those 2 weeks. And he got furious. And so he was trying to, like, I guess, negotiate with them. And he was just like, the guy is a douchebag and he wasn't trying to negotiate. And he was just like cursing, you know, Albert out or whatever. And so Albert, I don't know exactly what the case is. And this is another really interesting case because people don't know anything and they really need to know or else they'll find themselves in a lot of shit. So anyways, he, I guess, tells the guy on the phone, you know, that, you know, what, I don't even know what he said. He said something to the guy on the phone. And so the guy, and then he did vandalize the truck a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. There was no more cash in the register because after that first time that happened, they like put stuff in place so that you couldn't steal out of the cash register anymore out of the first time when that guy took all the money out for not being paid. So there was no money for him to take or anything else like that. So he like slightly vandalized the truck because he was pissed and he left. And then I guess some private investigator came to find Albert. So some private investigator came to where he was living at the time and knocked on the door and was just like, oh, I'm a private investigator. You need to talk to me. You have to talk to me. And when he came to me and he told me this, I was just like, you don't have to talk to anybody, Albert. Tell him to go fucking kiss your ass. Tell him to get the fuck out your face and leave you alone. You do not have to talk to anybody ever for any reason whatsoever. And he like looked at me and he was just like, what? And I was like, you just tell him to go. You don't have to do anything that he's asking you to do. He's a private investigator. He's nothing. And he was just like, oh, well, I was scared. And so I did talk to him. And I was like, oh, you fucking idiot. And so I guess he talked to the private investigator and told him what happened or whatever. So then the private investigator had information on what happened and took it back to the dude or whatever. And so the dude started a case. The guy filed a terroristic threat case against my ex-roommate. He called him a terrorist. And so the courts picked up a terrorist case. This was what? 2015? This is how long ago it was, 2015. So 10 years ago, this stuff was happening. And it's even worse now. But yeah, they filed a lawsuit against him for terroristic threats. And I was just like, what? And so just like all this crazy stuff, because, you know, if you're a terrorist, you know, some stuff, whatever. I mean, I don't know what the hell, but I was shocked because then he got, you know, he came to me and he was just like, oh, they're, you know, they're trying to accuse me of being a terrorist. And I was just like, what? And he was just like, yeah. And I was like, what did you do? And he was like, nothing. I just yelled at him like you yelled at him and, you know, slightly messed the truck up a little bit, but nothing too severe. And, oh, that's what I think he did. He just didn't leave the truck locked. So there was always a lock that you would lock the entire truck up once you were done and finished so that nobody could get in and vandalize it or whatever. But he left it unlocked and just like threw the lock, like whatever, just like threw it, like whatever, bitch, it's open and anybody can come and do whatever they want. But I guess he was talking shit to him or something. I don't know. But he was just like, yeah, I'm being whatever for terroristic threat. And I was like, you're a fucking idiot. So I said, that's why you don't talk to anybody. But time goes by. And it's actually pretty funny because he had to get lawyers and everything. I mean, it was sick, dude. It was so sick. He got free lawyers because, you know, he's completely indigent. We didn't, you know, we're poor ass mofos. And just like we just watched, anybody who has no money has no justice. So he did end up getting some lawyers from the UT Law School. So like the UT Law School, like we'll have freaking student lawyer, attorney people do cases to practice cases and stuff under a barred attorney. And so he got some attorneys to work on his case from the UT Law Center. And they asked me if I would be a witness for Albert. And I was like, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And especially because this bro was a fucking sick fuck. And if you knew anything about him, you would not be taking this case. And so I did. I went to UT. I went into the law center and I met with these people because they were supposedly they wanted to you know, do the whole on the stand training thing. Like they wanted to put me on a fake stand and, you know, question me like the lawyers would and stuff like that, like the defendant's lawyers and stuff like that, the prosecutor. So I was just like, yeah, sure. So I sit down and, you know, they start asking me questions and I'm answering truthfully and honestly. And, you know, and I'm telling them all the stuff that I just told y'all, you know, about how he screws everybody that works at the trailer, that there's been at least 4 people who have done exactly the same thing that Albert did to this guy because he doesn't pay people. I told him that he was perverted and just like all the stuff, right? I told him everything that I knew. All the old employees, I gave them all the old employees' names and numbers so that they could contact them too for additional witness support. And again, this was them preparing me for the stand. So like things were already moving forward. They were preparing me for the stand. And like 5 days later, Albert comes to me and he tells me that the case has been dropped. And I was like, oh, really? The case has been dropped? Even though he had something, I can't remember what. And this is another dangerous thing about the law, because even though his case was dropped, he still had a terroristic threat, something on his name, like still to this day. He like can't get a job and stuff because he has some stupid terroristic threat, something on his name. So I was just like, dang, that's so messed up. But I just thought it was interesting because once I went in and told the truth, the case was literally dropped in 2 seconds. And I was just like, what? Yeah, that's definitely lawfare, Perry. So it was crazy. And I just thought it was interesting because that was 10 years ago, terrorist. How can one individual getting mad at their boss be a terrorist if, as it says here, a terrorism or a terrorist is a system of government that seeks to rule by intimidation? Okay. That's just odd because they're using terroristic threats and terrorist this and terrorist that on everybody nowadays. So I just find it very interesting. But again, that's just because we're still on the same Trading with the Enemy Act situation. If I can find a more comprehensive thing to show y'all, I can. Yeah, it was a mock trial. It was hysterical because as I was going and they were asking me all these questions and I was answering truthfully, they kept looking at each other like, what? what? And I was like, I know. And this is what I mean. And this is why I do what I do, you know, because I feel so bad for people like my ex-roommate, who was a grown-ass man who knows nothing about anything, unfortunately. And he's scared of everything, like everyone else. Like that private investigator came to his house and said, you have to talk to me. Like, what? Bitch, fuck you. I'll bend over, spread my cheeks. You can lick that. That's what you can do. Because no, I don't have to do anything for anybody ever. Like, I don't know. It was just, oh, he was white. The boss was a rich ass white dude and Albert was Mexican, Albert Ramirez. So it doesn't surprise me. But again, as I always say, it's not about race. It's about class. It's about class. Just like that guy just said, how attorneys are first-class citizens because they can get a job anywhere. They can get a job in all three branches, right? Judicial, legislative, executive. They can get a job anywhere. But everyone else can't. That makes you not a first-class citizen. And that's, yeah, it's just ridiculous. But, all right, well, let's see. Have any other interesting things to share? Let me see. There's this one that I wanted to share actually. It was very interesting. It's also very interesting if you take the time to actually like do research and stuff like that. Like I have, it's still very like convoluted and complex, and they make it that way. But I often notice that in these anti-government, sovereign citizen bullshit arenas, a lot of the time people are talking about like mortgages, and tax, and mortgages, and tax, and mortgages, and tax. And I'm just like, what the fuck does this have anything to do with anything, right? But in fact, it has everything to do with everything because they have taken it upon themselves to believe that they own you as property and everything that you have owned as property. So let me see. I had to go and search for this because this is not the guy that we're talking about. This is just like a video place to put things, because all of his stuff has been removed. I cannot find see, this is the one I'm going to show you all next time, which is really good, but I can't find the first one, the very first one. Hold on, sorry, let me see. And see, these are like old. Like I said, this is a depository. That's what I was looking for, a depository for old videos that were taken off the internet. So where is that one though? Where is it? I already saw that one. Where did it go? That messed up if they took it right off. Oh my goodness. Okay, here we go. It's not that long. It's really good. And like take the time to listen to what they're saying because I believe this is a deposition.
Well, this is a promissory note. Is there an agreement between Mr. Smith, the borrower, and the defendant?
Yes.
Do you believe the agreement includes a lender and a borrower?
Yes. I'm the lender and Mr. Smith is the borrower.
What do you believe the agreement is?
We have the borrower sign the note and we give the borrower a check.
Does this agreement show the words borrower, lender, loan, interest, credit, or money within the agreement?
Sure it does.
According to your knowledge, who was to loan what to whom according to the written agreement?
The lender loaned the borrower a $200,000 check. The borrower got the money and the house and has not repaid the money.
Do you believe an ordinary person can use ordinary terms and understand this written agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe you or your company legally own the promissory note and have the right to enforce payment from the borrower?
Absolutely, we own it and legally have the right to collect the money.
Does the $200,000 note have actual cash value of $200,000? Actual cash value means the promissory note can be sold for $200,000 cash in the ordinary course of business.
Yes.
So, according to your understanding of the alleged agreement, how much actual cash value must the bank loan to the borrower in order for the bank to legally fulfill the agreement and legally own the promissory note?
$200,000.
Okay, so according to your belief, if the borrower signs the promissory note and the bank refuses to loan the borrower $200,000 actual cash value, would the bank or the borrower own the promissory note?
Well, the borrower would own it if the bank did not loan the money. The bank gave the borrower a check, and that is how the borrower financed the purchase of the house.
Okay. Do you believe that the borrower agreed to provide the bank with $200,000 of actual cash value, which was then used to fund the $200,000 bank loan check back to the same borrower, and then agreed to pay the bank back $200,000 plus interest?
No, if the borrower provided the $200,000 to fund the check, there was no money loaned by the bank, so the bank could not charge interest on money it never loaned.
Okay. So if this happened, in your opinion, would the bank legally own the promissory note and be able to force Mr. Smith to pay the bank interest and principal payments?
Oh, I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot answer legal questions.
Oh,
Well, then, is it bank policy that when a borrower receives a $200,000 bank loan, the bank receives $200,000 actual cash value from the borrower, that this gives value to a $200,000 bank loan check, and this check is returned to the borrower as a bank loan, which the borrower must repay?
Well, I do not know the bookkeeping entries.
I'm asking you if this is the policy.
Well, I do not recall.
Okay. Mr. Banker, do you believe the agreement between Mr. Smith and the bank is that Mr. Smith provides the bank with an actual cash value of $200,000, which is used to fund a $200,000 bank loan check back to himself, which he is then required to repay plus interest back to the same bank?
I am not a lawyer.
Did you not say earlier that an ordinary person can use ordinary terms and understand this written agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Banker, I'm going to hand you back the bank loan agreement. This is Exhibit B. Is there anything in this agreement showing the borrower had knowledge or showing where the borrower gave the bank authorization or permission for the bank to receive $200,000 actual cash value from him in the note and to use this to fund the $200,000 bank loan check, which obligates him to give the bank back $200,000 plus interest?
No, there is not.
Okay, so if the borrower provided the bank with actual cash value of $200,000 in the note, which the bank used to fund the $200,000 check and returned the check back to the alleged borrower as a bank loan check, in your opinion, did the bank loan $200,000 to the borrower?
In that case, no.
So if a bank customer provides actual cash value of $200,000 to the bank, and the bank returns $200,000 actual cash value back to the same customer, is this a swap or exchange of $200,000 for $200,000?
Yes.
Okay, so did the agreement call for an exchange or swap of $200,000 to be swapped out for another $200,000, or did it call for a $200,000 loan?
A $200,000 loan.
Good. So is the bank to follow the Federal Reserve Bank policies and procedures when banks grant loans?
Yes.
So what are the standard bank bookkeeping entries for granting loans according to the Federal Reserve Bank policies and procedures? And I'll hand you now the Banker Fed publication entitled Modern Money Mechanics, labeled Exhibit C.
The promissory note is recorded as a bank asset, and a new matching deposit or liability is created. Then we issue a check from the new deposit back to the borrower.
So then, is this not a swap or exchange of $200,000 for $200,000?
Well, this is the standard way we do it.
Answer the question. Is it a swap or exchange of $200,000 actual cash value for $200,000 actual cash value? If the note funded the check, must they not both have equal value?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to plead the Fifth Amendment on this.
Ooh.
Okay. Tell me, if the bank's deposits or liabilities increase, do the bank's assets increase by an asset that has actual cash value?
Yes.
Is there any exception?
Not that I know of.
So if the bank records a new deposit and records an asset on the bank's books having actual cash value, would the actual cash value always come from a customer of the bank or an investor or a lender to the bank?
Yes.
All right. Is it the bank policy to record the promissory note as a bank asset offset by a new liability?
Yes, it is.
Does the promissory note have actual cash value equal to the amount of the bank loan check?
Yes.
Then, does this bookkeeping entry prove that the borrower provided actual cash value to fund the bank loan check?
Well, yes, it does. The bank president told us to do it this way.
All right. How much actual cash value did the bank loan to obtain the promissory note?
Nothing.
Then how much actual cash value did the bank receive from the borrower?
$200,000.
So then, is it true you received $200,000 actual cash value from the borrower plus monthly payments, and then you foreclosed and never invested 1 cent of legal tender or other depositor's money to obtain the promissory note in the first place. Is it true that the borrower financed the whole transaction?
Yes.
Are you telling me the borrower agreed to give the bank $200,000 actual cash value for free, and that the banker returned the actual cash value back to the same person as a bank loan?
I was not there when the borrower agreed to the loan.
Do the standard Fed publications show the bank receives actual cash value from the borrower for free, and that the bank returns it back to the borrower as a bank loan?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe the bank does this without the borrower's knowledge or written permission and authorization?
No.
To the best of your knowledge, is there written permission or authorization for the bank to transfer $200,000 of actual cash value from the borrower to the bank, and for the bank to keep it for free?
No.
Does this allow the bank to use this $200,000 actual cash value to fund the $200,000 bank loan check back to the same borrower, forcing the borrower to pay the bank $200,000 plus interest?
Yes.
Then if the bank transferred $200,000 actual cash value from the borrower to the bank, in this part of the transaction, did the bank loan anything of value to the borrower?
No.
Is it the bank policy to the lender for the amount? Does the bank pay IRS tax on the actual cash value transferred from the alleged borrower to the bank as income?
No, because the actual cash value transferred shows up like a loan from the borrower to the bank, or a deposit, which is the same thing. So it's not taxable.
If a loan is forgiven, is it taxable?
Yes, it is.
Is it the bank policy to not return the actual cash value that they received from the alleged borrower unless it is returned as a loan from the bank to the alleged borrower?
Yes.
You never pay taxes on the actual cash value you received from the alleged borrower and keep it as bank's property?
No. No taxes paid.
When the lender receives the actual cash value from the alleged borrower, does the bank claim that it then owns it and that it is the property of the lender without the bank loaning or risking 1 cent of legal tender or other depositor's money?
Yes.
Are you telling me the bank policy is that the bank owns the promissory note, which is the actual cash value, without loaning 1 cent of other depositor's money or legal tender, that the alleged borrower is the one who provided the funds deposited to fund the bank loan check, and that the bank gets funds from the alleged borrower for free? Is the money then returned back to the same person as a loan, which the alleged borrower repays when the bank never came up with any of its own money to obtain the promissory note? Am I hearing this right? I give you the equivalent of $200,000. You return the funds back to me, and I have to repay you $200,000 plus interest. Do you think I'm stupid?
All the banks are doing this. Congress allows this.
Does Congress allow the banks to breach written agreements, use false and misleading advertising, act without written permission, authorization, and without the alleged borrower's knowledge to transfer actual cash value from the alleged borrower to the bank and then return it back as a loan?
But the borrower got a check in the house.
Is it true the actual cash value that was used to fund the bank loan check came directly from the borrower and that the bank received the funds from the alleged borrower for free?
This is true.
Is it the bank's policy to transfer actual cash value from the alleged borrower to the bank and then keep the funds as the bank's property, which they then loan out as bank loans as if they actually owned it and loaned their own money?
Yes.
Was it the bank's intent to receive actual cash value from the borrower and return the value of the funds back to the borrower as a loan?
Yes.
Do you believe that it was the borrower's intent to fund his own bank loan check?
I was not there at the time, and I cannot know what went through the borrower's mind.
Sick, huh?
So if a lender loaned a borrower $10,000 and the borrower refused to repay the money, do you believe the lender is damaged?
If a loan is not repaid, the lender is damaged.
So is it the bank policy to take actual cash value from the borrower, use it to fund the bank loan check, and never return the actual cash value to the borrower?
The bank returns the funds.
Was the actual cash value the bank received from the alleged borrower returned as a return of the money the bank took, or was it returned as a bank loan to the borrower?
As a loan.
So how did the bank get the borrower's money for free?
That's how it works.
No more questions, Your Honor. All right.
Crazy, huh? So I know that was a lot of kind of kajubal booble right there, but basically what just happened was the lawyer that was deposing the banker was saying, so a promissory note, i.e. an application, a bank loan application, is a promissory note. And when you go in as a borrower, and that's why he was always saying alleged borrower, because he's not a borrower, he's the actual lender. And this is what everyone keeps on trying to say, again, through the Seste QV Trust, which we'll go over a little bit later, again, with that video from that guy on the bar members. But basically, when you apply for a loan, you are securing that money. So this guy had a $200,000 loan for a house that he went and he got a loan from the bank. But then he found out that he was the lender. And so, when you apply, you create a promissory note, you create a financial instrument, and all of the money, the $200,000, is yours. It's coming off of your credit, and it's going into the bank, and the bank is keeping it as an asset against a liability. And then they give you the fiat currency, the cash, or the supposed alleged credit to go and purchase that house for $200,000. But then they say that you owe them that money back plus interest, usury. So that was the whole point. The guy was just like, what do you think, I'm stupid? So I give you $200,000 and then I got to pay you back $200,000 plus? Like where are you in this incident? And he's just like, oh, Congress lets us. Congress lets us because you know who owns Congress? Because Congress lets us. Yeah, the banksters. The banksters own Congress. The Shylock, who are the banksters, own Congress. And I have, in my own theory of research and review of all of this, in my own opinion, I think that the judicial system is exactly that, if you know what I'm talking about. And I've even found, I can't locate it because it's on a previous computer that's in storage, along with a lot of my old videos, which is why I couldn't actually upload the ones that I wanted to, because they're all on an old computer that I have to go search through a storage. But damn, I lost my train of thought again. Oh yeah, all the information that I have, I actually found a website. It was like a Britannica website or some kind of like informational website that was supposedly, allegedly, legitimate source of, good information. But it did say that. It said that they were the ones who, set up and create the judicial system. And I'm not surprised at all whatsoever. I mean, it makes sense through, not theocratical, shall I say, like, if you know anything about history, which I know a lot of people don't know, a lot about religious history, in fact, it was the laws that the Pharisees had to, administer. That's why I audit the administration. Okay, because all these things, all these people, all these companies and corporations, they're administrators, and they're nobody. Like, what is an administration? Like, do you understand that when you go to court, you're dealing in administrative law? That's what it's called, administrative law, not constitutional law, not just regular law, not common law, administrative law. So it's just very interesting to understand history, true history, and like follow the paths. That's why I like reading old documents such as this. This is the modern money mechanics, which is what that attorney was referring to when he found all that information to work against the bank. Yeah, see, look, the purpose of this booklet is to describe the basic process of money creation in a fractional reserve banking system. The approach taken illustrates the changes in bank balance sheets that occur when deposits in banks change as a result of monetary action by Federal Reserve System, the central bank of the United States. The usurpers of the United States, shall we say, just like when we went and we read that the 7 financial conspiracies that enslaved the American people, which was from 1866. Who creates money? Changes in the quantity of money may originate with actions of the Federal Reserve System, depository institutions, principally commercial banks, or the public. And this is another thing that I'm trying to express to people, that the public is not you. You are not the public. The public is the government. And that's why you have the actual process of money creation takes place primarily in banks. See, as noted earlier, checkable liabilities of banks are money. These liabilities are customers' accounts. That's just ridiculous. Anyways. And this right here, what you're looking at, this is legalese. This is all the bullshit that lawyers do to create confusion, how they expand or contract. It's also called hypothecation, meaning they just make shit up. Let's see, what was that one? It was 2. What's 1? In order to describe the money creation process as simply as possible, the term bank used in this booklet should be understood to encompass all depository institutions. Since the Depository Institutions Deregulation and Monetary Control Act of 1980, deregulation, 1980, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, is like all this really disgusting crappery, especially for you, Prairie, that it started in 1982 for Canada, where I'm pretty sure y'all's president or whatever, I think it was Macron's dad, or not Macron, what the fuck is his name? Katy Perry's boyfriend. Trudeau, there you go. Trudeau's father was the one who gave up the Bank of Canada to the Bank of International Settlements, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. So it's crazy. Anyways, all right. I won't keep y'all any longer since it's already like what, almost 2 hours. An hour and 30 minutes. Not too bad. Yep, number one. And I'll be back later on tonight. And I'll play the other bar attorney one, because it's much longer, but it's also much more intricate. And I really like it because it shows something in there. He had mentioned on this first video, the Inns of Court. Yeah, with the new signing of a Charter of Rights. Yep. There's a good content creator from Canada that I might also, I've showed his work before on my previous channel. I mean, it's the same channel, but on my previous channel when I had all my videos up, there was a lot of videos, man, that I wish I should not have taken down. I should have just privated or something, but I thought that it wouldn't matter because there's a lot of stuff that is now rearing its head again. But this guy from Canada, you know, he found out about all this stuff because, you know, his father had worked at a company or whatever for like 40 years or something. And then he was like retiring and he wanted to, you know, pull from his pension fund. And then they found out that there was no pension fund for anybody in the whole entire corporation. They did something. Yeah, of course. They're all agents of Satan, you know, and I know that sounds stupid, but it's really not. And again, once I show this other video, it'll also help illuminate that, you know, that I always talk about Freemasons and all this secret society BS because that's exactly what we are under. And if it doesn't go to show, you know, on my channel, there's a video that I posted from The Truth Is, and he's talking about how Diddy got away with whatever he got away with because, you know, they all work together in unison. It was really funny too, actually, because I was watching the Candace Owens show the other day and she was talking about the Diddy trial and she said it was a total show trial, which I knew. Anybody who knows anything for real knows that that wasn't going anywhere because, yes, he is the Epstein of the Hollywood area. You know what I mean? But she had mentioned this guy, Jonathan Oddie, who shot up the Trump Towers several years back. And one thing she didn't mention was that he said the reason why he went and did that at the Trump Towers was to get Trump's attention because he knows that these secret societies or whatever are plotting to assassinate him. And this was a long time ago and they had the video, you know, and that's also very interesting that Jonathan Oddie, number one, has been in jail for like 4 years and he's never had a court date. I do know this other chick that I watch sometimes. She had did a, you know, thing on him and his court case, and she attended his hearing via Zoom, and he never was brought. He was never brought up to anything. Like they just screwed him over again and said that they were going to reschedule his court date, and they never brought him in. That's 4 years. It's 4 years. And she thought that was weird, but she didn't have anything to say. She's an ex-attorney, or, you know, she's a JD. She practiced law for like 2 seconds, or she never actually practiced law. She just got a job at a corporate firm. And then she was talking about the Britney Spears thing. And one of the chicks who's also involved with Diddy went to her law firm and told her bosses to tell her to stop making videos about her. And she was like, nope, not going to do that. Nobody's going to intimidate me. And that was the one thing I did like about her at the time, even though she still maintains this stupid legal bullshit. And that's people who spend a lot of time and money going to school for this reason. They're going to fight for all that time and money put into this, right? But anyways, she said that she went and nothing ever happened. But in it, he says in that video of him getting questioned by the police, he says that Diddy is part of the Boule. And if you know anything about the Boule, that's just the black arm of the Freemasons. And, you know, it's just really interesting because in this other video I'm going to show y'all later, this guy talks about how, you know, Freemasons set up the whole entire thing. And, you know, to be a Freemason, you can get out of any kind of like anything if you just show the signs and symbols. And it's just also very, very interesting that, you know, Diddy's trial had all these issues with the jury. And in this next video, I'm going to show you guys, it talks about how, you know, if there's a jury member who's a Mason and you give them the sign, they are to protect their brother. So I just thought it was interesting because that's exactly what's happening. And do not think that anybody who's ever been in the halls of power are not a part of it. So, and that's also what I was talking about with Massey. I thought it was very interesting. I watched I think it was with Theo Vaughn. Maybe I'll go and try to find it again. But he did a Theo Vaughn interview, and he was talking about how Congress members can lie every day, all day, through their teeth about whatever they want in his official capacity. Anytime he is in his official capacity, he can lie through his teeth. And I was just like, what? And he was talking about it openly. And then, you know, that brought me to the idea about how the law states that cops can lie to you straight to your face. And then it also brought to memory about a court case that I watched about how CPS can lie. And not only can CPS lie to you, but they can also lie to the court. So I thought that was interesting. But anyways, again, all this legal stuff is total BS, and I wish more people understood it, because the more of us there are, the less of them they can push on us. So, all right. Well, thank you for watching. Prairie, you're awesome. You rock. Hopefully I'll see you later on this evening, and see you then, guys. Bye. Hold on, Prairie. I'm trying to answer your thing real quick. Oh, yeah. Well, thank goodness I'm still on here. Thank you for that question, Prairie, because that's where I was going with all that crap with Candace Owens, because she was talking about how the whole Epstein thing, right? She was talking about Maxwell. And, you know, Maxwell had gotten in a lot of trouble. The whole reason why he, quote unquote, committed suicide, didn't die, is because he, you know, bought up a whole bunch of what are they, media outlets, and one in particular, he bought up a media outlet in particular and stole all of their pensions. And so because he stole all of their pensions, he got in trouble because, hello, what the F? And he couldn't pay the pensions back. There's also something else, I'm gonna have to find it, talking about pensions in America. So they were just talking about how, you know, you're not gonna get your pension in America either. And I was just like, dude, hello. Anyways, all right, sorry. Bye. Love y'all.